So first of all, I would like to say welcome to our safety and real estate panel seminar, little teaching snippet. Our fantastic panelists we have today, we have Chantal Lafontaine, we have Sarah Percival, we have Sonia Payette, and we have Chrissy Bork. Did I pronounce your name correctly, Chrissy? Okay, perfect. Now, for those of you that are just joining us, this session will be recorded. A little bit about when you're showing a home. Chantal and I were talking a little bit earlier today about how it's very different with COVID that we're not necessarily having that in-person meeting before we show a house to a client. And so what we're finding is that we're doing it over the phone or doing it through Zoom, etc. And then we're meeting them at the property. And sometimes that can be a little bit scary, a little bit dicey. So my first question is, what protocols do you take when showing a home to a new client? What are your safety measures? So Chantal, I'm going to start with you, please.
Well, if it's a new client that I've never worked with before, usually the first thing I'll ask for is a mortgage pre-approval letter. It shows me if they're serious or not. And oftentimes you'll get a lot of the information on who the buyer is specifically. Then my next step is usually to go creep them on LinkedIn, because I feel like if anybody has a good buying budget, they're usually in some sort of work position that they'll likely have a LinkedIn account. If they don't have a LinkedIn, or if I can't identify them in some way, then I'll usually ask for a driver's license or a passport, because a lot of times too, they'll go by different names on emails. They might not necessarily have their legal name there. So that's usually what I can do to at least vet them and then get them on the phone as much as possible.
Okay, wonderful. Sarah, what do you do?
Yeah, I'd echo a lot of what Chantal said. And I try and push as much conversation from email to the phone so I can get a feel for them when I'm speaking with them. And then you can ask them some more questions where they kind of have to think on the spot. And if they actually have responses and you can kind of get a feel for if they're genuine, then that's helpful, because by email, you can compose a pretty shicey email pretty quickly if you're given time and you're not kind of put on the spot. COVID, I find too, I'm being really particular with who I meet with. So the pre-approval is essential. I don't meet with anyone unless they have a pre-approval. And then, I guess that kind of pushes the risk onto whoever they're dealing with for their mortgage, or whichever mortgage broker I refer them to vet them out a little bit first as well. And then if I'm really, really concerned, then I'll either refer them out or bring someone with me to the showing.
Okay, good stuff. Sonia, what are your thoughts?
I think that it should be mandatory that we always get a driver's license, no matter what, because when you ask them that, and it also matters to me how I'm getting the lead. If the lead's coming in from a previous client or a friend or a family, I'm going to have a little bit more of a comfort level. And if it's somebody that's just randomly calling me on one of my listings to come and see it, I want to make sure that I don't mind asking a million questions. I know I don't do this, but I know from my listings, like somebody will book a viewing and they'll just meet somebody. They'll go, oh, well, I was just meeting them there. And they said they never showed up. And I'm like, well, did you not have a conversation with them? So I think it's important, to talk on the phone, because you have to ask them if they're working with an agent anyways, that's law. And I would ask a lot of questions. And if they're reserved in answering them, well, okay. And if they're not, if they're like, then you say the thing where you say, okay, well, because of COVID right now, I'm going to, like my scarf, Chrissy, I'm going to, sorry, she bought me it. So I'm going to, like, then you just say, because of COVID, this is why I'm asking all these questions. But I don't even think COVID, I think this should be all the time, because we always have to show our listings. It should be mandatory from RICO that we get a driver's license, I think.
So technically, for FinTrack, the rule is you're supposed to get FinTrack filled out at the earliest practical opportunity. And I think if they changed it from the earliest practical opportunity, people would get that driver's license a little bit faster.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. So Chrissy, what about you? What kind of safety measures do you put in place?
Yeah, so similar to what the other ladies have said, I think that always asking where they got your information from is a big one for me. As Sonia just said, if it's a referral from someone you know and trust, then they're more likely to be, a trustworthy person to work with. Sometimes, I'll get leads from my social media, and in that case, I always ask for them to call me. If they don't call me, then it's kind of a weird lead, and I just kind of let it go. Maybe I've lost business because of this, but I think, really, vetting people and making sure that they're real people before meeting them in person is a priority. So, looking them up online, checking their Facebook, checking their LinkedIn, speaking to them on the phone, all of those sort of things, definitely a priority. Sometimes too, I'll occasionally let them know that I'm too busy to meet with them and suggest that they meet with my partner, a male colleague. And if they're still open to that and they're willing to move forward with meeting a male colleague, then, that's a good indication too that they're probably a real person. And if they're just really set on meeting you, then it might be a little bit.
Okay. Have you ever thought about meeting the clients in a public place prior to the showing? Let's start with you, Sarah.
Yeah, pre-COVID, I would often meet a client for a buyer's meeting, either at a Tim Hortons or a Starbucks. I would typically, because a lot of times when we're meeting clients, it's after typical work hours, and I find the offices usually really quiet in the evenings. So I usually will do a coffee shop or something like that where there's more public people around. I prefer to do that over a quiet office.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Sonia, what about you?
I like meeting people first, and I always, this is really bad for me to admit, but I don't really sign the buyer agency agreements because I always tell them, I say, which obviously I do after, but I normally meet them and I say, look, what's going to happen? This is the situation. They say, well, do we have to sign anything with you? And I say, well, listen, we're going to go out one day. We're going to look at a bunch of properties together. You're going to see if you like me, if I like you, if we're a good fit. And then you're going to basically never have to ask me if I'm working for you or not. We're going to find you a house. Right. And then it's never served me wrong. So I do like Sarah said, I do like to meet them at a Starbucks, and I do like to let them know how it's going to go down. I'm going to put you on an auto search. I'm going to start to just show you a bunch of houses.
Okay. Chrissy, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, same sort of protocol, but sometimes if somebody's coming from out of town and they don't necessarily have a whole bunch of time to sit down and have a coffee first, they want to just kind of jump into things. That's another time when I'll definitely always bring someone with me, either a colleague. More than often, my husband ends up coming with me. He'll wait in the car and just drive me around or drive us around, and that's just what I do. I don't ever go and meet someone alone at the house for the first time unless he's in the car with me, or unless it's a referral from someone and I feel good about it. Daytime showings too, always try to meet in the daytime, somewhere public maybe first, but if not, at least have someone with me when I'm meeting them at the showing.
Chantal, what are your thoughts?
I never pushed in-person meetings before. Simply, well, I mean, I shouldn't say never, because I used to do it when our market was a little bit more quiet and buyers could take their time. But I found that as the market ramped up and buyers needed to get into those houses as fast as possible, I always found that trying to book a meeting was almost like a time wasting activity. But if I would get them on the phone, and if I felt kind of dodgy about it, if I didn't get a good vibe from that, then for sure I would attempt to do like a buyer meeting first. And it would always be in a public space. But yeah, I found that once the market just started to ramp up, I just couldn't sleep on waiting for meetings. We had to kind of get the process started. I know it's a very unpopular opinion though, and I wouldn't recommend it, I guess.
No, that's okay. I'm not your broker, so it's fine. Just a quick little aside. We're talking a lot about buyers. What about sellers?
I got to tell you guys.
Yeah.
I'm Chrissy, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but she's probably used to it. Listen, I once had a military listing, and it was down in Overbrook. And this is back when I was like 3 years in, and I was like 32 kind of thing. No, maybe 33. Anyway, I was fresh. And he wanted me to do the listing at 8 a.m. on a Saturday morning. And I thought, okay, it's in Overbrook, it's busy, whatever, but I am, you know, a young woman, whatever. So I called him up and I said, I just want you to know, I'm telling my boss about the meeting. And I want to know, like, I just want to know, do you live alone? He said, why are you asking me all these things? And I said, well, I just want you to know that I'm protecting myself. He said, okay. He said, that's, you know what? That's really good that you're telling me this, because I wanted a picture of his driver's license. And he said, why do you need that? And I said, I want to protect myself in case you're a bad guy, which I know you're not, but in case that you are. And he said, you know what? They don't even think of it like that. So when you tell them what you're doing,
Yeah,
they
exactly.
respect you more
Yeah.
for doing it.
Agreed. I used to
Yeah.
do that. I used to take their license plate numbers before I got
too.
out of the car. Chrissy, you do the same thing?
Yeah, I'll take a
It's
picture of the
important. I
license
take a
plate and I'll
picture.
send it to someone to make sure they know where I am, what addresses I'm going to, the license plate of the person. They always have the phone number of the person, full name, all that sort of thing. And apps too are really popular. I have, I think it's Life 360 app I just downloaded recently. I used to use Friend Finder, but it's not as detailed. But have a couple of your friends or your spouse download that so they can track where you are. It's so detailed, it even tells them exactly what speed you're going in your car. So it knows exactly where you are at all times. It's definitely very handy.
Wonderful.
What's that one called, Chrissy?
Life 360, I think.
Life 360.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Life 360.
it's like a purple app. It'll tell you. So I have a couple of friends right now on it. Tells me exactly where he
Wow.
is, when he got there, where he was before. So if you have multiple showings, it'll allow your partner or whoever to track you and know when you're finished, or know if you're taking an unusual long time at a certain location and maybe give you a call to check in. So definitely really good.
Okay. What about, so again, going just a little bit back to, I really like that app, Chrissy. That's a good, that's a really good tip.
Yeah.
Going back to sellers, and the reason I bring sellers up is because when I was selling real estate 100 years ago, I had a seller open the door in a towel. And, you know, and it kind of, and, you know, I'm there in my suit. I've got, you know, all my papers ready to list the house. And he's like, hi, how are you? And I'm like, oh my gosh.
What did you
dropped
do?
that towel, right? And so,
You left, right? You left?
oh, I left very quickly. I left, but it really impressed upon me that I either need to bring somebody with me,
Yeah.
or do what you were talking about, Sonia. And when people hear why you're doing what you're doing, you know, if the male client says, I don't understand, why are you taking my license plate down in a description? And I would say, well, because I don't know what you're going to do to me. And so I want to make sure that I have all the information in case the police need to get you. Men will be like, I hope my mother does that. My
Yeah, they'll
wife, my
sympathize.
daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when they don't, when they get very skeptical, that's when, you know, your antenna should go off, and that woman's
Exactly.
intuition, right? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like
And
going down the
sometimes
dark
they don't wanna
alley.
waste your time. They just want to kick tires with you and spend time with you and have coffee
Yeah.
with you. And it's just
Yeah.
like,
Weird.
don't, like, bye.
I know. Chantel, what have you had any similar experiences with sellers, or if you're going to a seller's home, what kind of precautions do you take?
Well, most of my sellers that I work with have always been referrals. I don't do a lot of like lead genning for sellers. So a lot of them are people that I know or somebody else knows. But even then, I'll make sure to get a driver's license before the listing. And when they ask me why, I usually say, well, I need to verify that you actually do own the home, and then you can check them on Geo. And then basically, like, I've even had FSBOs take pictures of my driver's license and do the same kind of precautions before I go into their homes. So a lot of people tend to understand that. I have a check-in system with my husband, which I'm sure a lot of us do when we do vacant properties. I have like the grocery check-in, where he'll call me or text me 45 minutes into it and just say, you know, what did you need me to pick up from the grocery store? And if I say, oh, nothing, like, we're good, I got it all, then it's like a thumbs up. But if I say something like, oh, don't forget to get the yellow peppers. That's like a code.
Red flag.
Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah.
if anybody's holding a weapon to you or something, it's very easy for them to force you to say,
Anything good, yeah.
It's fine. So
Yeah.
we have the grocery check-in. So I just do stuff like that when it's like a listing appointment. But for the most part, the phone, talking to people beforehand and knowing where the property is, you can kind of get a pretty good estimate on it. And I find that it's just telling your party and who you live with or your broker, like where you are. I think that's usually kind of what I do for listings.
Sarah, what about you?
For listings, I have my husband call me partway through the listing, usually about 10 to 15 minutes after it's supposed to start. And I'm very open and honest with the sellers when I sit down. I sit down, I put my phone face up and I said, listen, here's the thing. My husband is going to call me probably about 15 minutes through, just so you know. A lot of people don't realize the risks that we take with our job. We're meeting strangers in their houses, oftentimes empty houses. And so we put ourselves at risk. So in order to avoid, flashing lights showing up at your house, I'm going to have to answer my phone a few times. I hope you're okay with that. He keeps tabs on me while I'm here. And then they're like, oh, I never even thought of that. Holy cow. Like, they're usually like quite in shock. They're like, holy cow, that's so true. We didn't realize how risky it is to be doing what you're doing. And then they're totally fine with it. They're like, go answer. You can call them, whatever. Make sure you call them on the way home or whatever the case may be. And they're usually pretty forgiving about me answering the phone during the meeting.
I like the whole, so you don't have lights showing up at your house. That's a good,
Yeah.
it kind
some
of breaks
humor,
the ice
yeah.
a little bit, makes them laugh.
Yeah.
Good line, Sarah, I like that. Have you guys ever taken a self-defense course? Chrissy, I'll start with you. You ever
I have
taken one?
not. No. And I know that, I don't know if our brokerage or the board has offered some in the past. I don't know, how effective it would be really if a giant man really wants to handle me. I'm sure that no self-defense class will really protect me against that. So I think, like the precautionary measures are most important. I do always carry my Swell water bottle. If anybody has one, it's like a mini baseball bat. So if it's filled with water and you have that in your
Hot
hand,
water,
I think
hot
you have a
water.
pretty good weapon with you. So, that's, I guess, really the only thing that I do when it comes to carrying anything with me or taking classes for self-defense.
Okay. Chantel,
Yeah.
what about you? Have you ever taken a self-defense course?
In high school, I remember like a brief
Yeah.
little course, but then I also had a dad with 3 daughters who taught us a lot. I grew up north where there was a lot of bears. And so I feel like bear safety and predator safety went hand in hand.
Similar.
Yeah. And so one of the biggest things that I was taught was that if you can't see, you can't fight. So you always go for the eyes, as gruesome as that sounds. And so I was taught a lot of like, not necessarily holds and things like that, but mostly just how to use whatever you can as weapons and things like that. But
Yeah, use your voice, scream. Don't be afraid to scream at the top of your lungs.
Well, when I started in real estate, I was doing a lot of rural properties and like power of sales where like nobody's around for like weeks at a time. And so I always had like my infamous knife bra with me. And then my keys always like in my hands.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It may be infamous to others, but the knife bra is not infamous to me, Chantel. Can you explain that a little bit?
I posted that in the group. So, because of where I grew up, we were just on autopilot to always have a knife in the car in case you got to cut a seatbelt. If you're stranded in the middle of nowhere, defense. When you go for hikes, always have like a knife with you. And so I remember a couple times when I went into some power sales and I was meeting people for the first time, young agents. So I took my car knife, it's just a little pocket knife, and I had it in my bra because I was wearing tight pants and it would be super obvious. And it just became like a force of habit to keep it with me. And then also like if there's keys from a lockbox that have a ring, to keep your keys like on the inside. So if anybody does try to do anything, you can give them a good swat in the face or key to the eye. And just sounds so gruesome, but I've just always learned basically how to use stuff around you as weapons in terms of self-defense. Because if you try to kick somebody in the groin on adrenaline, they're not going to feel it for like 20 minutes. So you always got to kind of go for head above. And that's basically the self-defense that I learned.
I've never heard of that before. I would ask our one of our two males on the call if that's ever happened to them before, but we'll just leave that one alone and take your word for it, Chantel. Sarah, what about you? You ever taken a self-defense course?
I have. And I think the thing that stuck with me the most, now I took it when I think I was in my early 20s, so quite some time ago. What stuck with me the most is when somebody, like, they literally, they grab you, they pin you down, and you truly become helpless. Like, you think that you're going to be able to dodge them and fight them and this and that, and it is really hard when they can truly overpower you, and it is terrifying. And you think that it's going to be easy to scream and to yell, but it's really hard because you're just trying to get away, and then you forget that you need to be yelling and you need to be screaming. And I remember them constantly yelling at you, being like, scream, 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 and you forget. And it takes a lot of energy to scream really loudly when you're trying to get out from underneath someone. So what stuck with me most with doing one of those courses is avoidance of putting myself in situations where that could happen.
Yeah.
Because when you are in a situation when that could happen, your odds aren't great.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Sonia, what about you? Have you ever taken a self-defense course?
I think I have, but I remember when I worked at On Tap, when I went to Carleton, we took a course that was all about reading the room and just being aware of your surroundings all the time. I think too, if ever you can have them park in the laneway and you park behind them and you hide your keys like on top of your tire, they can't leave, your car is stuck, things like that. If ever if you're feeling a little bit unsure, I think also let them, you're the professional. It's not like it's a man, let him go in front of you. Don't let him go in behind you. When you're going downstairs, let him go down first. Just make sure that you're always in control of what's going on in front of you.
Okay, so we talked a little bit about this already, what we carry for self-defense. So we know that Chantel has a knife bra. Anything else that anybody carries around with them? Sarah, do you carry anything with you to just in case?
Not currently. I did order, I think Julie Whitaker posted something about this, that it's a birdie device that you can kind of hook onto your purse. And I know that it's not really a self-defense tool or anything like that. I'm not going to hit anybody with it. It's really not going to truly protect me. But if you can find, like, when you're in a situation like that, time is really important. And if you can buy yourself a little bit of time by setting off this major, massive alarm that might spook whoever is trying to do something or whoever might be attacking you, if you can buy yourself a few minutes to get ahead of them, get out, or even just to scare them off because there's this really, really crazy sound that neighbors might hear or something like that, then I think that there's definitely value in that.
Okay. Chrissy, what about you? Do you carry anything with you?
Well, I've been known to carry some things early on in my career when I was a little bit less cautious and didn't, pre-qualify people. I would just slip a knife into a sock and keep that in my bag, which sounds crazy, but that's something that I did. And I think, I did end up having a stalker at one point, and he is someone that I did carry that with. And I think he caught a glimpse of it once in my purse in the car, and we made eye contact, and it was really awkward. But I don't know, maybe if that gave him a tip that I was, like, not maybe someone that would be taken down easily. I don't know. Maybe it's, not the best idea to carry something like that, because it can definitely be used against you too. So we have to be really careful. Again, when somebody can overpower you and take something from your hands, it can put you in a really dangerous situation too. So I don't do that anymore. Maybe another good tip for something that makes noise and that will, connect you to the police. I don't know if a lot of people know, but on your iPhone, you can have a safety feature where if you hit the button 5 times, it'll actually set off an alarm and it'll call the police directly. So I always have my phone in my hand. I know, something weird happens and I'm in a bad situation, I can hit this 5 times and it's automatically going to call police and make a really scary sound. So not a weapon, but definitely something to help.
That's a good tip, Chrissy. I like that. Chantel, anything other than your knife bra?
No, my keys.
I will never forget that now, just so you know.
Keys, basically keys have always been inside of my hands. That was just something I had learned like back in high school, like when you walk in like parking lots and things like that at night. keys, like touching on letting your clients go in front of you. I do it with families. I do it with a single person. It doesn't matter who. I usually, if I have a feature sheet with me, I'll leave the feature sheet in the kitchen. And when they want to go to the basement, I say, oh, I'm just going to go grab my feature sheet. I'll meet you guys down. And like, I always have these like little tactics on how to just keep people in front of me. And I tell them straight when they go in the house, I say, you guys go ahead and I'll follow you, because I don't want to feel like you're being rushed through a tour if I lead the way. So lead the way. And I kind of set that precedent that they're going to stay ahead of me.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much about it for me.
Sonia, what about you? Do you carry anything?
No, I once had that thing where the thing can be pulled out and it made a huge alarm sound. I know the biggest thing, I think, trust your gut. There was once I wasn't doing a condo open house, and a man, I went down to meet him because you have to go down to let them in. And I put my hand out and I said, oh, nice to meet you, I'm Sonia. And he said, well, that's obvious. And right away, I just got this weird feeling like this guy is going to be alone in a condo with me and he's not being nice. And then we got in the elevator together. We were going up to the 5th floor. It was a condo in Westboro. And I just said to him, there was something off and I don't care. And I said, you know what? I'm really sorry. I hit lobby. We went back down. I said, I'm really sorry. I'm not comfortable going into the condo alone with you. If you're serious about it, I suggest getting an agent to show you the condo. I'm not going to be showing it to you. He went off on me. The doors opened. There was a couple in the lobby. They heard him calling me bad names, and they invited me to the penthouse upstairs. I was very shaken up. I was really upset. He stole my sign. Like, he could have done anything to me in the condo. I think we're lucky in the city. The girl that was talking earlier, I forget her name. When you were doing all those rural properties, that freaks me out. Like, that's where bad things happen. In open houses, you're alone, and in a state, that's where you really have to have your spidey senses on 100%.
Oh yeah, especially the power of sales, because sometimes nobody's checking in on them for a week at a time. So I did a lot of rural, and that's where I kind of learned, where to draw the line with certain people. But yeah, like everybody keeps saying, it all comes down to trust your gut, intuition, and stay within the daylight.
And don't be scared. Like, tell them you're the boss. Like, you don't need to do anything. You tell them you don't owe anybody anything.
No paycheck is worth it.
Nope.
Agreed.
There was an agent stabbed 28 times in Vancouver, and she was young. She was, I think, 26 years old. She was a very pretty girl. She was asked to show big $3 million properties in Vancouver. She never asked their names. It was a couple flying in. She picked them up at the airport. On the second property, they stabbed her 28 times to her death. So.
Oh yeah, we all remember that story. No.
Yeah. When I was just getting into real estate, there was 2 escaped cons from the Kingston Pen and in Mississauga, and they slit her throat. And I'm like, oh, that's great. Look at the industry I'm getting into. I used to carry pepper spray. And one of my ex-brother-in-laws was a cop, and he's like, well, you're not allowed to carry that and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, listen, I'm 5'2" and 110 pounds. If I go to court, I don't think the judge is going to be upset with me that I sprayed a 6'5" man in the face.
Yeah.
So I agree with that.
I just wanted to mention something.
Yes,
somebody
please.
said something about going into basements or not going ahead of somebody into a basement. I remember I was probably only about a year or 2 into real estate. I was a buyer's agent at the time, and I was showing a property and the basement was unfinished, and it was kind of creepy. And I was getting a really creepy vibe from this buyer who I really didn't pre-qualify because I was a hungry agent and I was just meeting people with property because I just wanted to sell something. And you really let your guard down, because you not even that you let your guard down, you kind of push your worries aside because you're hungry for commission. And so anyways, he was a little off, and he's like, well, come down and show me the basement. And I said, you know what, the basement is totally empty. Why don't you go down, take a look, make sure you check out the furnace, everything like that. I'm going to stay on the main floor because I have a call coming in. And so he went down, and then he came back upstairs, and he said, he was like, I live right around the corner, and I've really done a lot of amazing things in my basement. Why don't you come over and check out my basement. And I'm like, well, that's a little fishy. And so I think one of the important things to do is be able to kind of think quickly on your feet. Because you know what, maybe he was totally harmless. Maybe he truly was interested in selling his house. I don't know, but I just simply said, I have another appointment right after this. However, I was working, I think with Anne and Dwight at the time. And I said, my colleague Dwight would be so happy to meet with you. I'm going to pass along your name and number. Is that okay? And he was like, oh no, don't worry about it then. And so it's like, okay, very good then.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Chantal,
always
you're
bring
right.
up a male colleague.
Yeah, you gotta trust your gut.
Oh, 1000%.
Yeah.
It's usually right. And like everybody keeps saying too, like the second that you bring up a partner, like a male partner or another colleague, and if they start to get super reluctant, then you know they're not serious. And like even like worst case scenario, you pass over a client to another male and you get 25% referral for doing nothing.
Yeah.
That's worth it for me to not be all stressed out and feeling weird about going to a showing. So, you know, it's a little hard these days with COVID to be able to like meet people and to get that sense of it. So if right off the bat, if you just don't feel good about it, just refer it out. It's not a huge deal.
And I think too, like there's so much support that we see in this group alone from male colleagues, you know, empathizing with us and feeling bad for us. And I think that if we ever, you know, needed to use one of our male colleagues in a situation like that, you know, it wouldn't even end up having to be referred out. We can let them meet with them a couple times, either alone or with us. And I'm sure they'd be happy to, you know, let us continue working with that client once everybody's comfortable with knowing that they're, you know, a real buyer, a real seller. So, yeah.
I agree. We've got some great men in this industry that, you know, would be very, very helpful. I'm with you, and Matt's one of them. So we've already talked a little bit about this, showings for vacant homes. One of the things that I used to do is I used to carry my big flashlight, you know, those big, huge metal, heavy duty, because if a basement, you know, is unfinished and it's dark, that's what I used to carry with me. Right. That's and it was pretty heavy. I also used to call it the Price is Right showgirl. Upstairs is here. The downstairs is here. You know what I mean? And
let me know if you need anything.
Exactly. And being in control. You're absolutely right. You never lead. You always follow. For sure. And we used to, you know, talking a little bit about open houses. You know, one of the things that I used to do that I stopped doing is wearing a dress or a skirt, because you have to hop a fence. It's very difficult to do in a skirt.
Yeah.
You know, and then sometimes if you have to escape quickly, you don't know, and it's a detached home, you have to check to make sure which side of the house the gate's on. Because typically most detached homes have one side that is locked and one side is the gate. And if you end up running into the side that is not the gate side, right?
You're cornered.
Again, you're cornered. So let's talk a little bit about what do you think we can do as an industry to help with the safety of our agents, male and female? Because let's face it, a man can't outrun a gun. You know, right? I mean, there's not a lot of men on this Zoom meeting, but because some of them think they are invincible, but they can't outrun a gun or a bullet. And, you know, these things have happened, you know, and it's not even, it could be that they want to steal your car. They want your car keys. You know, we all, you know, most realtors drive really nice cars. So it's not only about personal safety, it's about, you know, making sure
not getting robbed.
Not getting robbed either. So
it could be that they want to rob the listing that you have listed too.
That too. Yep.
Exactly. So what do you think we can do as an industry to help with creating a little bit more awareness or some different safety precautions?
Fingerprinting. I'm joking. That's a joke.
I know you are. That's okay. What do you think? Like, what do you think we should do? Thoughts, suggestions? Let's go, Sarah. What are you thinking, Sarah?
Well, I think that I know you touched on it before, and Chrissy touched on it before, with having there's a lot of male colleagues that would be willing to help. You know, they think
buddy
about
systems.
Yeah, a buddy system, and perhaps maybe we can have a roster of people in different areas of the city, so that if I'm going out into the East End, well, I'm going to look in the East End roster and see if somebody can come along with me if my husband can't, or I've taken my poor brother along with me. I don't know on how many appointments where he is stuck sitting in the car waiting for me. And so I think a roster system might be helpful for people that are willing to help, whether it's a male
Yeah.
or a female. Number of bodies is always, two bodies is better than one, whether it's a male body or a female. I'd be happy to go along with anybody.
Yep.
If they want someone to sit in the car waiting for them, we can all do some work on our phone. It's no big deal. And I think too that whether it's by brokerage or offices or board wide, I think a safety committee might be a good thing, so that we can relay any like new advancements in technology, or if there's a really great deal on something that we can carry on us, and maybe if we can buy it in bulk and it's a better deal or something like that, maybe there's like a committee where we can then share information and collaborate together to come up with better ideas, and keep everybody in the loop with any new, I don't know, technologies or anything like that to keep everybody safe and get that roster going and stuff like that.
Okay, good idea. Sonia, what do you think?
I think that something really important would be, I think we all, every single one of us today has said that when we were younger and newer and green, we all kind of didn't do things properly. We all didn't have the confidence to
Say
ask them
no.
these questions, and we were shy and we were insecure and we didn't know. And I think that as you get, you get confident, you're the boss, you're the professional. I don't think now we really worry as much as we did. Maybe that's bad, but I think the big thing, I think as a brokerage, if I had a brokerage, I would want my new agents, all of them, to know how important this is, and to share with them the stories that have happened, the iPads that have gone missing from listings, the back door being purposely left unlocked by the buyer, who then went and unlocked it on the way out, and then somebody went and stole things from the property. Like all these things, it's not just that we're going to get kidnapped or raped, let's say. It's about the protection of the whole situation, you, the seller, the listing, everybody. And if this whole meeting right now is about our safety, but I think having confidence to ask the right questions and do the right thing. I think the new agents really, no one sat me down when I started. No one told me you have to, like, oh, you're going to meet a new buyer at a coffee shop. He's married. Well, after the third coffee, you go, when's your wife going to come? Oh, she can't make it. Then you just don't go anymore, but don't waste your time on these things. And I think that the new agents, they really, and then there's the whole, this is really bad what I'm going to say, but selling sunset. I mean, sex now is this big part of the real estate game. So these girls they need to really protect themselves. That's it.
Okay, Chrissy, what about you? Those are great ideas, Sonia. I'm going to implement a safety when I bring a new agent on board. That's a great idea. And a transfer agent too, just in case. That's an excellent idea. Chrissy, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea too for brokerages to do that, to have that almost as like an introductory course, safety in real estate. Maybe have, a female realtor in the office lead it or whatever, but definitely every new agent, men and women, should definitely go through that. And I think having a safety committee too is an excellent idea. Just having our group share stories like we have been over the last, week with that specific caller who's been kind of harassing all of us from a private number. But just having a place to share stories like that so we can kind of keep track of people, because let's be honest, we're going to report this to the police unless this person really does something criminal. There's not much they can do about it. And we can call the board and get board to put bulletins out, but are they going to do that for every single call? No, probably not. But if we have our own group where we can share that information, share the stories that are similar, and kind of call these people out and keep each other aware of it and keep it in our brains, because like Sonia said, at this point, some of us, if it hasn't happened to you recently, you kind of forget about it, so your guard's down. But if we continue to share these stories, it's always something that's going to be on our mind and hopefully make us a little bit more diligent. So yeah, safety committee is a great idea. And then yes, just sharing different tips, ways to stay safe. Another tip too, I know it's not a weapon, but something I always like to do when I'm showing homes to somebody is always make sure that my car is full of gas. So if I do need to get out of a situation, I know that I can drive as far as I need to safely, without my car stalling or whatever and ending up in a crappy situation.
Good idea. Chantel.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
about you?
Education is key, right? Even as much as we've all been in the business for a while, like we tend to forget these things after a while. So if they keep reminding us about safety, so yeah, definitely a committee would be a fantastic idea that comes up with, the best apps and tools and tips and tricks. I also give my password and login to Showing Time to my husband, because Showing Time can be almost like a tracker of like where you are. So if something does happen, then right away, like, I don't know if brokers of record can have access to our showing times just to be able to say like exactly where we are at what time, because it is a really good way to trace where we are. Vacant
or where we're
properties, I
supposed to
always
be
said-
going.
Yeah, or where we're supposed to be going next.
Yeah.
I always said that vacant properties should have like a fake sign or something that says that it's under video surveillance. Like it's placebo effect, right? If there's something that says like, and we have to disclose that you're being filmed in a house, right? So even if clients ask about that, we say like, yeah, it's protocol. We need to tell everybody that we're being filmed or recorded. And because it's vacant, it's an extra safety measure that real estate agents or our board have put upon us. Like, almost like a suggestion, or, it should be done on vacant properties that there's something filming you at all times. Lights, as much as possible, leave the lights on vacant properties, because the more lights there are, the less likely things are about to happen. So I think it's all about awareness. Keep reminding the new agents, but then also us like older agents that have been in the business for a while that, these stories are still out there, and we have to keep coming up with new ways to protect ourselves.
Yep.
That's wonderful.
Can I just
Sorry,
add one
go
thing
ahead.
about that too, is I think a lot of us are really concerned with wasting anybody else's time too and asking for help. And I think we really need to encourage people to go ahead and do that and not make it, because I know for myself, it's like, oh, I don't want to bother them. I'm sure it's totally fine. Like, and nothing's going to happen. And then you don't do it. And most of the time, yeah, it is totally fine. But what if it's not? So really encourage, like, even though, yes, the offer's there, that like, I'm more than happy to go with somebody, or so-and-so, or Matt's more than happy to go with somebody, but really encourage that they take you up on those offers if you are feeling uneasy.
That's
maybe
wonderful.
each brokerage could have 3 or 4 different people that people can call. Like maybe there should be like the people that want to be called to help them, kind of thing.
The vigilantes. Yeah.
Okay. I like that.
Oh, and
Okay.
another thing too, somebody mentioned in our group recently that I don't remember which brokerage it was, but their brokerage has a code word or something. If they call the brokerage and they order a pizza to the address that they're at, then that's a sign that they need to have the police sent or somebody to be sent over.
Yeah,
You can also say things like, oh my gosh, you won't believe it, my aunt lives down the street, like I just was having a coffee. Like you could lie too.
Yeah, very, very true. Well, ladies, you have been fantastic. I promised I would try and keep this in 45 minutes. And
I hope my jacket didn't make you end the meeting.
No, it's good. My nanny's got to go there, so I'm like,
that was the other thing too, right? So we wanted to keep this very timely. So I want to thank you also very much. We do have a giveaway. What we will do is we will take note of the participants that have been on this Zoom meeting, and I'll have Carly, Matt's assistant, pull a name, and they will win a birdie. Okay, so
What's
thank
a birdie?
you all. Birdie, that's the very loud thing.
Okay, good. Okay, perfect. Yeah.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah, so we'll do a draw for that. There's also a promo code that you can order a birdie, and Matt, it's 10% off, I believe, when you use Ottawa 2.0 as your source code. We posted it on the Ottawa 2.0 Facebook.
And there's an additional 30% off if you order a group of 5, just so you know, too. So
there
if
you
you get
go.
some people together. Yep.
So that's a great idea. Message some of the women in your offices and see if you can get 5 and then that's a great idea. Wonderful. You ladies have been fantastic. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
I greatly
Thank you.
appreciate it. And if you ever need anything, let us know.
Thank
See
Thanks,
you on
Sherry.
Ottawa
Thank you.
2.0. Thank you so much, ladies.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.